Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. Now we are going to go ahead and make this little flower here. I went this weekend to a jewelry, rocks and such show, and honestly I was a little disappointed with the whole thing. I really didn't find anything that I was looking for, at least as far as a stone to possibly slide on here and then turn all these into the petals of a flower. But that's okay. We'll go ahead with my other idea of this guy here and make our own flowers. Now for your center flower, which would be this guy, I've already tried to record all this, but my phone did not record any of it, so I'm having to redo the whole thing right now. Pretty much this is the flower design that I have made, and all my paint is already in there and whatnot. You can design whatever center floral piece you want, but I feel that he's pretty much the right size for my overall piece. I might have to shorten my center stem a little bit, but I feel he's big enough to be the focal center point, but not take away from everything. So that's what my guy looks like right there. So how are we going to do that? I will show you. Now this guy is 20 gauge copper, like what most of our hairpiece has been made out of. But these little guys I'm wanting to show you with 26. I'm going to go ahead and cut myself off a really good length of wire here. And this is just like the St. Patrick's Day video and just like the first video of this guy. You can find a template, you can find a pencil drawing, a line drawing of a flower that you like, and pretty much go ahead and shape the wire to that. Now for this little guy, this little bud here, he's just 4 petals. So that's really all I plan on making. And I want to give myself a little bit of stem. And this is going to be for wrapping, like how I did with this guy here. So away you go before it gets into trouble. This is a super simple piece. It's not the way I made the other one, but the other one I made from a template. Now obviously there are more precise ways of going about this, but it is a wild, natural thing. Flowers aren't always perfect. Sometimes they grow with a little bit of a defect. Sometimes something comes in and eats them. So I don't mind there being a little bit of imperfection going on. As long as it just doesn't look like I made a petal from one flower and then put a rose petal on it. Then it's like, okay, well, a little bit too much liberty with that. And then here, just going in, whoops, in between the wires, giving a little round bowl shape. Tuck, tuck, instant petal. Go in between and try to get the same relative place that you do for one flower for another. So that way they kind of have like the same bowl shape. Yep. There we go. Close that up. Work on this one. I am trying to hold these kind of closed as I'm doing this, so that way the wire will shape around. There we go. And you can even go in with your square nose and squish some spots if you want them to be a little bit smaller and a little closer together. The only thing is that when you, whatever it is that you end up building for this part, you want it to be able to lay flat. Now we can change the shape a little bit in the beginning. I'm not sure how far we can take it. That's going to be part of the experimenting. But for the moment, whatever piece this is, it has to be flat. To open a little more, because this guy is going to end up being in the round to be viewed from all sides like this guy is. He's viewable from every angle. This guy may not be in the end. He might only be one-sided, but that's all right. For a hairpiece, it really doesn't have to be in the round necessarily. And you can shape and mold as much as you want. This piece is a little bit long. I don't think it's quite in the right place, so I'm gonna shorten it up just a wee bit. I'm gonna call that that. And now I'm gonna bring this shorter tail around. And I'm gonna hold on to this guy nice and tight so that way he'll stay in place in the appropriate areas. You don't want him to have too much wiggle room. And at least 3 times around. So he doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because he is going to get reshaped and be more like this little bud here eventually. I just want to make sure that where I put everything, there we go, will lay nice and flat. And I'm going to stick him down to this masking tape. Now you can use regular packing tape. I've seen people do that more often, but masking tape is what I readily have at home. So that's what I'm going to use. Sticking down, nice and tight. And you can pick him up if there's areas where you're seeing things just aren't sticking very well, and get in there with your fingers and really have at. But overall, I think we got it. Now for the next part, the surprising part. And all you gentlemen out there, if you know your wife has a stash of fingernail paint, don't steal it, go and buy your own. And for all of you single guys out there, You can buy some, but if you feel like people are looking at you funny, if you buy a set of tampons to go with the fingernail polish, people think you're just out shopping for your girlfriend, and then nobody will think twice about it. So no worries there. Then you can give them to your sister or your mom or something. It's like, I didn't want to buy fingernail polish all by itself. And then they'll just look at you like you're weird. Now, what we are going to do with the fingernail polish is we're going to get a good amount on here, and I've already pre-shaken this. Make sure that you do shake your fingernail polish before you use it. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in, and I'm not painting this in, I'm just letting the drops fall down and then just kind of navigating the paint around a little bit. Now, if you do have some areas that seep, that's okay. Then we will deal with the X-Acto knife once we are all nice and dry, which I'm probably going to have a few areas, quite a few areas now, that are going to seep. Yep, so let's start over with that, shall we? With fresh tape. Where is it? There it is. When a plan refuses to come together. I've done this 3 times, and it worked just fine in the last video I tried to make. Of course, it would be stubborn and not work in this one. Because reasons. Alright, that seems a lot stickier, so I think we're going to be doing better there. My husband's going to wake up and come in here and it's like, what is all this red? Are you okay? You're not allowed to do jewelry smithing anymore. Cutting yourself all over the place. Alright, now let's try that again. You want a pretty good amount going down here. And if you do get some seeping, again, that's okay. You don't want a whole lot of seeping like what you saw happening to me. But a little bit of seeping is no big deal because an X-Acto knife is going to take care of all of that. All right. And we're just going to let that sit there and dry. I'm going to have a lot of X-Acto knifing to do with this one. Just tired of trying to make this video, damn it. And you're going to want to come back multiple times throughout the day. You're going to let this guy dry. I wouldn't use any hardening chemicals. And to make things dry faster, just don't deal with that. Because you are going to be putting it on fairly thickly. Let this guy dry out really good. Give him an hour. Come back. And he's going to be concave down a little bit. And then you're going to put another layer. You're going to want to keep putting layers until this color is flush with your wire outside. If you just put down one layer and done, some areas are going to be thicker than others. And when you go to remove the tape on the back, believe it or not, which is not happening in this video as much as I would want it, the thinner areas could end up ripping away. And depending on how headstrong you are with it, you could end up just taking all of the coloring off of it. Or you can relay it back down if you haven't ripped it all off and then start adding layers and then it'll reattach itself. So I'm going to call this video there for the moment. I will see you guys in a few seconds when I have all my layers done. They're all dry. And then we will go on to the next step in the next part. So you can feel free to pause now, and I'll see you in a little bit. And we're back. So here is my little leaf after adding several layers to him. And he's going to peel off pretty easy this go around, but you do want to be careful. And I can see I got a lot of cleaning up to do. Now, on one side, yeah, he's not exactly what we're going to want. It's pretty pitted and everything. And that's probably why people use the, I've seen people use the packing tape as opposed to the masking tape. But on one side, the other side didn't really do too much. I didn't get in there with the wire and really kind of mix the paint up all the way down at the bottom on the first step, or at least the first layer of fingernail polish. That's the word I wanted. But he ought to do. And here's the one that I did video record because I was supposed to show you how to do this one. Now this guy, both of them took about 3 to 4 layers to get them where I wanted. Get them nice and thick. And now we're going to go in with an X-Acto knife and clean up all of our edges and clean up in between. I don't really mind too much that the color did end up on the wire itself. Like, see, you can see this is going to be pretty easy. It's just the X-Acto knife will get more into the finer, smaller areas that my fingernails can't. Because this guy's a little smaller, I might even just be able to bend these guys. But you do run the risk of accidentally taking it off the back and then the whole thing peeling off. So I'm going to go get my X-Acto knife. I can't find my X-Acto knife anywhere, so I'm just going to use one of the regular knives we have around the house and throw it in the washer once I am done. And you just kind of go in to all the areas where the paint got a little bit out of control. Now the fingernail polish is fairly rubbery. It's not like enamel where it's nice and smooth and it'll chip off everywhere. In thinner areas it will. But for this piece, then once you get into those thick areas, it's not going to be quite so easy to get rid of. So you want to be careful, and you do want something sharp, and be very, very careful as you go along. Don't hurt yourself. And now that we're done with that, I'm just going to go in here and bend my piece just a little bit in some areas, you know, kind of make the leaves be a little bit of a C shape. I can see an area where I just didn't get in far enough. There. Okay, and from here it is very simple just to go ahead and squeeze these guys closed. Whoop, where are you going? And this one's going to get up more on the inside than what I want, so I'll go ahead and pull him out and readjust him. I'll move you over, give him more room to get in. Maybe I curled just a little too much, so I'll straighten out a few of these just a bit. And there you go. Little flower with a nice long stem that we could work him into our whole piece. I see a little catch here. We'll just take that off. Yep. And he doesn't have a whole lot of play with him because of the this rubbery fingernail polish here. But he does have just enough to be able to do something like this with him. I was thinking, well, what if I put him in the dapping block and try to shape him and maybe even shape the wire a little bit more after the fact, but I'm seeing that this definitely, playing with it the past few days, it definitely doesn't have that kind of give and permanence to it. So there we have our little flower petal there. Now we'll go into this bigger guy. I think I'm probably going to play with it some more, just see where I can go with it, but just placeholder here, give you an idea of the effect. Flower. But he still needs some work, and it's just a whole lot more what you saw me doing until I'm happy with it. I think I'm even going to have to maybe soften it up just a little bit more. And I'm going to have to make a couple of these, and I'm sorry that this video is going to be short. Between the rain that's been happening, insane amount of rain this week, plus all just everything has been just working against me making any videos on this, so I do apologize for that. But I do want to try to get at least something up for you guys for the next part of the project here. So this won't be probably isn't going to be as long or as in-depth as I was hoping. Plus trying to record these flowers multiple times over and over and over again because everything just went wrong. My camera not recording anything. Kind of just getting to the point where I just want to move on. So I've slipped this guy in here. And where? There they are. I just kind of slipped him in wherever he will go, and I'm going to wrap him around this interior wire here. I'm also going to slide on a bead for contrast. And whoop, come here, come here. I'm going to start wrapping it right after that bead. And it's going to be a super loose little wrap going on. And I'm going to slip through there. Now I got his tail. I can still tweak that part if I like. And I'm going to continue to wrap around like I have with everything else to continue that feeling of something growing in a tangled mess, but an organized tangled mess. And I'm just anchoring down what I have, any tails or ends. And I'll go ahead and cut off that little end. And take him along the back here. And I'm going to go ahead and end off this here with a curl. And see, he's all wrapped up inside of that curl. That just makes it even better. And now he's separate all onto himself here. And I'm going to take him back up this way a little bit. Actually, I think if I lift this guy, lift you up just a little bit, I can then tuck you underneath. And there we have it. I take a little bit more work on that. Now I can come in here with another piece of wire and go ahead and tack him down. And you can always use this opportunity to, one, either add in more wires, which I will be doing, or just tack things down where you need them to be staying. Now, as far as the choosing where and the when and the why and the how, pretty much just start playing around with something, and if it falls apart like that, you put it back in the place that you had it. And then I see that these two wires, the wire that's holding this bead here and the wire of the flower himself, are very, very close to each other. That is as good a place as any to hide, or even not hide in this case, because we're going to be having so many things going everywhere. Some sort of lasso or sewing section here. All right, and now he's not going to go anywhere without this wire doing something or being destroyed or such. I'm just going to go one more time around. Now, I've already slid a bead over this, the middle wire, medium length wire, and I've curled him around. So kind of flex that. Even though it's not the same one, the middle one's still over here, but that's okay. It was intentional. And I'm going to try to work this littler wire that I used to tack down with. I am going to work him over using everything else to try to get over to this guy, which isn't going to take very much. And I want to do this one just a little bit tighter. I'm going to just go through just like before. Now to add a little bit more visual interest, we can go back up the other way, but that kind of gives it like a crisscross look, and not so much. I'm actually going to unwind all of this here, because I think that is enough of that texture for the moment. So he's just going to get deposited. There we go. And now I got another bead here, the round ones. We don't want to just start putting in a whole bunch of these oval shaped beads. They do have a little bit of a pattern on them, and just go with that when we have these guys going here. You want to carry that design. Where'd it go? There it is. You want to carry that design and work it in other places, not just the one. And that's what I love about the 20 gauge wire. It ends up working out really well when you want to add on beads and such. I think this wire is going to be a tack again. Sew something down. As soon as I figure out how and where, I think you're going to go there, and you're going to come up from the back and around. And I can sew on here, maybe. Come on, don't be stingy. There we go. Oh, fine, be that way. I'll use you later. And back up. And grab him again. Come around the other side. Find a place to tack. Now this bead's going to be a little bit more of a slidey dangly piece. And I really want this to mirror our foundation ribbon piece here and follow that general shape with a slidable bead, just to create a little bit more visual interest, and also by it being a moving part that creates a different kind of visual interest. And go ahead and snip this guy. Let's try there first. It seems a little bit too long right now for where I want to hook him in, but we can always take off. We can't exactly add. So I'm going to go ahead and treat this guy like a head pin and start curling. Give myself a little hook. I'm going to slide him in here, and he's going to hook a hold of our bottom bead wire, and that's what I'm going to try to work him onto staying. Or you can even push him all the way through and try to hook a hold of the heart from the back. Either or, probably the heart would be more sturdy, so let's actually go ahead and do that. There we go. Fun! And just adjusting a few things here and there. And if this can't stand up to me adjusting it, then that means something needs fixing. So this guy was still kind of wiggling around and getting loose on me, so I needed Now I do have this shoulder piece that's just kind of hanging up here from one of my previous wires that I was messing with. And I'll just slide him through there. And now slide him back through. And I'm going to create another swag. Like so. Actually, we better go underneath that part. Yeah. And since we have 3 round ones there, that's where I'm going to use one of these guys. See how he likes his little home there. But because he is oval shaped, maybe not that one. Since he is oval shaped, he is definitely not going to have the mobility that the little round one does. But he might. He's at least going to have a little bit. Or maybe not as much as I was hoping. Yeah, there we go. See? And I'm just trying to get a smoother swag here. I'm just creating another head pin type hook. And I want to hook this wire on the back here because this is more where I want this to be. So that way he'll anchor himself over here as opposed to like way over there. There we go. Now that gives me my limitation that I want. Almost. Come on, don't want you over there. And now I get to tack these two together. I'll use a smaller piece for that since it's right up front. And remember, we want to go and wrap at least 3 times around anything to make it nice and strong, worthwhile doing in the beginning, or to begin with. 1, 2. All right, and wrap just this tail 1 and a 2. nice and close. Now for our other tail. And because of the way these wires ended up laying, I'm going to see if I can't sneak this guy through. Probably not. Oh, snuck him through something there. That'll do. And snip. And more than likely, we're going to have to, or, well, anyway, we will be putting another swag over here with a round bead, and that'll get tacked onto this side for symmetry. And then this guy can't slide up here and end up getting stuck up here where you don't notice him anymore. So that keeps him kind of trapped where you want him. And since I don't have a round bead with me here, I'll go ahead and finish up this side, and it's just a matter of mirroring it over here. So, which then I would use this guy as my middle swag, so I'd wrap him, or in this case, I do have quite a bit of it going on the outside here, where none of it's going on the outside over here. So actually I'd probably tuck him in, come back through, so that way he's on the inside of this piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now before I forget. This is where I'm gonna have to get another wire to kind of act as like the thing that the swag hangs on the ends, and just do the same thing that I did over here. Plop him right over. Now, what? I want to kind of create a swag on the back, just a small one. It doesn't have to be anything that can be seen from the front. Because again, like I said, you got to make sure that you at least give some love to the back of your piece, so that way it just doesn't end up looking like a giant tangled mess in the back. Especially when you go for judging and putting your pieces in competition, it just looks bad. A great little spot right here to go ahead and just tack that part down. Yeah, like that. Okay, so now I'm going to tack that down. Now this guy is so far removed from everything else, you could even hammer him, which I might end up doing off camera because it's pretty much going to be the exact same hammering techniques that you saw for this part here. I'm just going to try to widen him out using my files. I might even shape him just a little bit more beyond that. Now you might be making fun of me. He's like, oh, that's not long enough. Why am I putting so much effort into shaping it just like the other side? I don't know. There's something there. Tell you the truth. Seems like there's something that could be done that's fun, and you know, playing on the idea that this one isn't going to be completely finished because, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about it. And plus I can kind of get an idea of what's going on this way too. So these guys kind of act as lower petals. A little bit upper. Or I can just go straight leaves like that. How would you look? Alright, well, I might make myself up a bunch of these and just stick them in everywhere and see how that goes. And at that point, if I use this guy, I can just take this shape and turn it into another leaf. Easy. So then that length of wire gets used. And again, I can add vertical height, because I don't know about you guys, but even though it was like silly long, there was something about how all of these ended up going upwards that I really, really liked. So yeah, currently probably about halfway, or at least half of it is roughly done, not all of it, but there's kind of an idea of where we're heading now. And we can add even more wires, and a lot the same way that we added all of this part with the leaves. So there's still tons and tons, and adding and adding and adding. You can really add endlessly with wire and wire projects. If you're always wondering how how they get so much wire into this piece, well, this is how. You just don't know when to stop. And you can add another flower over here, and you can add taller flowers, although we'll see. Is that part of it? Tweaking, tweaking, tweaking. And this is what I originally thought that I would end up doing, was making a whole bunch of petals this way with wire, and then putting a stone in the center, but I never did find a stone that I wanted to go in there. And that was drilled up through the middle. And sorry if my fingernails are awful. Did a little gardening. A lot of black mulch, and now my fingernails are stained. Probably going to be stained for quite a while.
Nice spot.
I want to get a video of her. You guys are all around her, and just let her be herself. Rub. Rub. Rub.